Hello and welcome to another episode of Raw Politics. It is my hope that you're fine wherever you are. I'm also okay. Anytime we approach a general election in Kenya, we end up with two distinct opponents and what you would call a third force or a third wave. A group of people who pretend not to be part of opposition when in real sense they actually are. At times, this so-called third wave becomes very influential and might even decide elections should we have a runoff. 2027, ladies and gentlemen, is no different. We already have two distinct teams. We have the incumbency, now backed by Raila Odinga and ODM. And of course, we have the opposition led by the likes of Rigathi Gachagua, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Matiang'i. These are two distinct opponents. And now we have a very interesting development. Young politicians rebelling from UDA and rebelling from ODM have come together to form what they call Kenya Moja. And this Kenya Moja also has the same goals as the opposition, but they are saying that they are doing things differently. This is a team that is comprising of the usual suspects: Sifuna, Ndindi Nyoro, Babu Owino, Wamuchomba, Amisi, and others. What they are saying is that they have what it takes to ensure that William Ruto is truly a one-term president. But then, ladies and gentlemen, opinion is divided as usual. There is one group of Kenyans that are saying this is just a ploy by President Ruto, that he is trying to dismantle the opposition by creating a third force, something that people might go towards and embrace and ensure that the opposition becomes irrelevant. On the other hand, there are people who are saying these are just an extension of the opposition led by the likes of Rigathi Gachagua, that there is nothing new about these people, that the Rigathi Gachagua is just trying to find a team that can attract the moderates, people who would otherwise vote for Ruto if it was a choice between him and the team led by Rigathi. But now if Rigathi has a team here that is moderate, then that can pick a big chunk of votes from William Ruto and ensure his one term. So you have two groups: those who think these are people that are funded and are being supported by William Ruto, and those who are looking at it from another angle and saying this is just an extension of Rigathi Gachagua. In this video, we will determine which is true, because both cannot be true. And if you are already getting value in this video, drop a like and consider subscribing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've said these two opinions cannot be true at the same time. It cannot be true that the group led by Sifuna and Babu and Ndindi are owned by William Ruto, but at the same time, puppets of Rigathi Gachagua. It can't be true. So which one is more convincing? I told you that whenever you watch a political analysis or whenever you approach a particular topic when it comes to politics, the number one rule is ask yourself, does it make sense? If it doesn't make sense, then it doesn't matter how flowery it is packed. It is not true. But if it makes sense, also it doesn't matter how unpopular it sounds. Let us take the case of this team. What is their motto? Let us go with that. What is their motto? They are saying their goal is to ensure that William Ruto is one term. I remember Babu Owino and this team were in Donholm at a church, and they said that it is the government that Ruto leads is called broad-based corruption. It's not a broad-based government. That is a very bad thing that every Kenyan must join them to ensure William Ruto is not elected. They were nearly chanting one term in that church. That, ladies and gentlemen, is their goal. They have said our goal is to ensure William Ruto is not re-elected. So in terms of goal, they are very clear. They do not support William Ruto. But let's go back Are these people friends of William Ruto that are now changing? Because for us to assume that they are Ruto's spies or moles, we must look at their history of supporting William Ruto. So when was Caleb Amisi, Sifuna, and Babu Owino and Wamuchomba supporting Ruto after Ruto was elected? When? Wamuchomba started to criticize Ruto immediately. Babu Owino has never supported William Ruto, even when ODM declared that. The same goes for Sifuna. And of course, Caleb Amisi has criticized Ruto from day one. So the only person that was sympathetic to William Ruto until the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua is Ndindi Nyoro. But even that Ndindi Nyoro has been critical of William Ruto. In fact, he did not participate in the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. Same goes to Babu Owino. So in terms of their history with William Ruto and standing with William Ruto when it mattered the most, none of these people has stand with William Ruto. To add to this, they are also saying that they are still echoing the same message that they used to propagate, that William Ruto should not be given another chance to lead this country. So technically, there is nothing that has changed in this team. Now, can they still qualify to be Ruto's moles? People who have not been supporting Ruto, people who have been doing everything to bring Ruto down and are continuing to do that. So how can they be Ruto's mole? People who are willing to risk it all because William Ruto is working with Raila Odinga. So in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, I don't see how these people end up being Ruto's mole. I told you, the rule is, does it make sense? Let us still look at this point. If William Ruto wanted to break the opposition, he needs a candidate, not a group of young rebels without a candidate. Because even if these people were to get a following of their own, which they currently don't have, even if they were to get a following of their own, they would need a candidate to transfer these votes to. Currently, that KENYA MOJA, the group led by Kina Babu, don't have a candidate. They have not said this is our preferred presidential candidate. All they are saying is that they don't want William Ruto no matter what. So if William Ruto was going to use this team, then he would be having a candidate there. He doesn't. This team is also made up of people who have never supported William Ruto. They have done everything to sabotage him and to oppose him whenever they get a chance. So from there, do you think it makes sense that William Ruto would form a third force to try and get a following without a candidate to transfer these votes to? I don't think so. So it doesn't make sense. Let us look at the other side of the coin. Let us look at what is the relationship of this team with Rigathi Gachagua. I have told you that even though Ndindi Nyoro was a close friend of William Ruto, when it came to doing his duty of impeaching Rigathi Gachagua, he skipped that. Same with Babu Owino, who has been a strong supporter of Raila Odinga. Wamuchomba, of course, voted in favor of Rigathi Gachagua. And I think Sifuna has never hidden his sympathetic nature for Rigathi Gachagua. These are people that I can dare you to go and search and see whether they have criticized Rigathi Gachagua. So they have not criticized Rigathi Gachagua in the past year. Above all, they are shouting the same slogans Rigathi Gachagua is saying. So which one makes more sense? People who have been critics of William Ruto from day one, who are also demanding that William Ruto must go home, compare with people who have been pro Rigathi Gachagua, even risking differing with their party leadership in the name of defending Rigathi Gachagua, and are also echoing every slogan, every talking point of Rigathi Gachagua. So, which one makes more sense? In my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, these are just an extension of Rigathi Gachagua's opposition. A good example would be the so-called Gen Zs. When Morara Kibaso was criticizing Ruto, he was their favorite candidate and they were donating to support him as their presidential candidate. When Morara tried to criticize Rigathi Gachagua, they turned against him. I was just telling you that it is the same thing we are seeing here. There's nothing new here. This is just an extension of the opposition. The belief is that if there are people who are not comfortable with Rigathi, Kalonzo, and Matiang'i, they would rather coalesce behind the likes of Babu, Ndindi, and Sifuna. That is the hope. Is what Uhuru did with Wajakoya. That he believed that if William Ruto is going to get the youth vote, let us divide that vote. Let us scoop that vote with Wajakoya promoting funny things that they believed were going to be embraced by the youth. Because the analysis was that majority of young people were going to vote for William Ruto. So they planted a candidate, the so-called third force, that was supposed to take this vote. Currently, that is the same thing. They are trying to do the same thing that Uhuru did. That is what this opposition team is doing, in my opinion. They are trying to plant a new crop of leaders, young leaders, to be to relate with the young people, so that if there are young people who are pro-William Ruto, they can listen to fellow young people who are saying no to him and maybe embrace them. The challenge they have, like I said, they don't have a candidate. So eventually, they will just tell their people to vote for Rigathi, or vote for Matiang'i, or vote for Kalonzo Musyoka. Ladies and gentlemen, and that is where the problem is. Because if you want to divide votes, you must have a separate candidate. You can't have an amorphous group calling themselves Kenya Moja without a candidate. Because if they don't have a candidate of their own, a candidate that they are backing to replace Ruto, then people also study them, and people have also studied them and seen that they are just echoing Rigathi's rhetorics and repeating the things that he says his talking point. Then at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, people will see you for who you are. You are just a puppet. You are just stooges of the same person. So if there are people who are pro-Rigathi, there's no value you are adding, because they already like him with or without you. And if there are people who would rather not vote for Rigathi compared to Ruto, and they see that you don't have a candidate, they will still vote for Ruto. That is why, if I'm asked, will this scheme work? I'll say it will suffer the same fate Wajakoya and Ukuru courts of this world suffered. And it will be worse for them because they don't even have a candidate to speak of, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of the day, this so-called Kenya Moja, in my opinion, are just people who are trying to lobby. They are pro-Rigathi, yes, but they also want to show these other people that we are in the market, you can reach out to us. Somebody like Babu is still undecided on whether he's going for the gubernatorial race or is going to retain his seat. The same for Wamuchomba, the same for Sifuna. Maybe Amisi has decided that he's going back to try and retain his seat. What I think they are doing is to also position themselves as we are available. If Ruto wants us, we can be there. But currently, we are pro Rigathi Gachagua. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I wanted to share with you, that this new team called Kenya Moja is purely an extension of Rigathi Gachagua's opposition. You would call them Rigathi Gachagua's puppet. Will they succeed? They won't succeed, in my opinion. They'll suffer the same fate. Some of them might even endanger their own political careers and fail and go into oblivion. I don't wish any of them bad because they are young people, but this is raw politics, and so we look at scenarios. You might fly closer to the sun and lose your wings. So, like Babu rebelling with Raila Odinga, that is very costly. Babu and Sifuna, that is very costly for them. I wish them well, but it will really need serious miracles for them to survive, politically speaking, moving forward. I hope you found value in this video, ladies and gentlemen. If you did, let me know in the comment section. Let us engage. And also, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends. Otherwise, if you are interested to know more about third force politics in Kenya, watch this video.